it. For example, I could just mention a couple. You're looking for zero crossings. The slope of the zero crossing tells you something about the rapidity of the change in intensity. That's one cue that you have. Moreover, the idea of the sombrero function is that it's set up so that if you convolve an image which is uniform, and that is to say, if you place your sombrero function over something that is pure white or pure black or pure gray, the result will be zero. And the reason that that works out is because the value, you can think of the hump value as having a strong positive bias, the trough as having a mild negative bias, but one that is all surrounding the central hump. And then the outer regions as making a very mild contribution to the result because they're close to zero. So what you're really doing is multiplying the center values by a large positive number, the surrounding values by mild negative numbers, and then the outer values by values that are so small, so close to zero that they're really not going to matter. A sombrero function that obeys that basic structure, there's not just one sombrero function. You could have an orange juicer that has a kind of low hump with a trough around, a low but wide hump with a trough around it, or a very sharp peak with a trough around it. So there is not just one sombrero function. You can think of sombrero functions as being tuned. A sombrero function that has a very high peak, it doesn't even look like a sombrero anymore. It looks like maybe, almost a sort of cone or something kind of like that with a trough around it nearby. A very wide sombrero function also doesn't look like a sombrero. It just looks like a kind of mild hill with, a little gentle valley around it. Those are extremes of the sombrero function, and any one of those could be used in this convolution step. In practical terms, the mild sombrero function corresponds to a very sort of rough view of the scene where you're just picking up very large and important edges. A sharp sombrero function picks up more detail. It picks up edges that might be smaller or finer or corresponding to milder changes in intensity. So by using sombrero functions that are tuned to different kinds of edges, you can actually take the very same scene and, in a sense, look at it in a kind of blurred perspective, like the photo at the bottom left here, or in a sharper perspective, like the image in the bottom right here. That is, in both cases, we're convolving this original scene with a sombrero function. But at the bottom left, it's a sombrero function that is broad and kind of blurry. It's kind of like squinting your eyes almost. And then at the bottom right, there's a sombrero function that is sharp and picking up more detail.